is a public Category 1 teleconference between the NRC and Dominion. Members of the public are welcome to listen to the call. I would advise you please mute your phones until the portion of the meeting opens up for public to ask the NRC questions. We've been having some problems lately, so if you're not actively engaged in the discussion, please mute your phones so we don't get a lot of interference and have to stop the call. Today's call is to discuss ongoing review action items for the North Anna Unit 3 COL application. There is an agenda there has been an agenda that's been sent out, as well as a couple of meeting materials, a slide presentation, and then the latest seismic audit action item list. So right now we're going to go through introductions on NRC's side, and Dominion, I'll ask you to introduce yourselves, and then any members of the public to please identify yourselves. I'm Michael Udy. I'm at NRC headquarters, project manager.
I'm Settle Pop, structural NRC.
Manus Dr. Body, structural engineer.
Francis,
George One, structural engineer, NRO.
Do we have any NRC, Jim Shays just joined the call. Do we have any NRC people on the phones?
Yes, this is James Engineer, structural engineer, NRO. I'm calling from the training site.
Also, Joseph Braverman from Brookhaven National Lab.
Okay, I think that's it for us, Gina. So, Dominion, who do you have?
Okay, so for Dominion, we have John Waddell, Tom Hicks, and myself, and then representing GEH, Skip, do you want to tell us who is in Wilmington first?
Sure. This is Skip Schulitz, Lubin Todovsky, David Ricard, and Taylor Blake.
Thank you, Skip. And Patricia, are you on?
Yes, I'm on the line. Patricia Campbell from GEH.
Okay. And Gary, are you on?
Yes, this is Gary. I work for Sedell, California.
Thank you, Gary. Is anyone else from GEH on who hasn't announced themselves?
Hi, Shan Liu, GEH.
Oh, hi, Aishan. Thank you for joining us. Okay. Anyone else? All right, and then from Spectral, Doug, are you on?
Yes, Gina, I'm on. So, Kim from Bechtel.
Great. And anyone else from Bechtel on who hasn't announced themselves?
Hey, Gina, this is just Bob.
Oh, great. Thank you, Jeff. Oh, hi. All right. And did anyone from Floor join us? That's it for us, Mike.
Okay, are there any, this is Mike Udy at NRC headquarters, are there any members of the public on the call today?
It's Barbara Moore-Scruggs with VDM.
Hello, Barbara.
Mute off.
Parker Gray, Richmond, Virginia.
Hello, Erica. Hello, David.
Mute on.
Okay, members of the public, I please request that you mute your phones from this point forward until I open up the call at the end of the proceedings for any public comment. Today, Gina, we have an agenda to discuss 7 items. Number 6 was scrubbed, but we can still discuss maybe some of that logistically. But we'll go ahead. I know we'll start with item 1, was the revised seismic audit action item list that you sent yesterday that contained some changes based on discussions we had a couple weeks ago. I don't know if staff's had a chance to take a look at that to give you any feedback. I would look to staff. Do we have any feedback at this moment? Yes, we probably don't really have to go into detail, but we do appreciate that you've tried to capture any additional items. Staff will be looking through that.
The only thing that when will we be getting all the lessons they have marked up? Are we going to get it before audit?
Yeah, I think that's one of my, that was item 2.
This is Gerald Braverman from BNL. Can I ask a question about the action item list?
Sure.
Okay, on page 25, the second entry for action item ending in 600C, in the follow-up action, I took a look at the DCD, and every subsection 381 through 385 do refer to Appendix 3G, So I wanted to get a clarification of the understanding. Therefore, would Dominion revise the FSAR in sections 381 through 385 to indicate that for each of those subsections, the site-specific structural evaluations for those structures are described in Appendix 3G.X, whatever that is, and would you as well identify that as the departure 3.7-1?
That was what our current plan was, Joe, to address your question, as I understand it. Is that what you were looking for?
Yes. Well, the reason I asked this is because what you wrote in follow-up action is that FSAR section 3.8, number one, you don't say all the sections, 381, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and also you say it will be changed to include references. I don't know what that exactly means. Hopefully you'll do something similar to what you did currently in your FSAR 384.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I was looking for. And if it looks like you're saying you will do that, then that's fine.
Okay, so how about if we, just so there is no confusion, we'll modify our tables to make that clear, all right?
Thank you.
Sure. We'll add clarification that it will also refer to the NAP CEP.
Thank you. And all of the subsections in 3.8, not just 3.8. In
Yeah,
general.
right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that wasn't clear. But, yeah.
Okay, so, go ahead, Ben.
One thing, I wanted to say that on the thermal ratios, we looked at, is that on the schedule later?
Which?
We got some.
So I think when we get to the slides, we're going to go over the thermal ratios as well, right?
But that's on the slide?
Yeah, that probably should be under 7 miscellaneous.
Okay.
That we can go ahead and jump to the slides provided by Dominion. I should have actually revised the agenda to include that, but at some point, Gina, I imagine you want to go ahead and walk through the slides. Maybe we'll just get through the easy parts first before we jump into that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do just want to say, though, that we're having a hard time understanding. Don't know if you want to repeat what he's saying, Mike, that would be fine, or if Manus can get closer to the phone.
Welcome.
I would just like to mention about
You've got mail.
Action items regarding the slides, but if we get to the slides, we'll discuss them.
Okay. All right, so then what I would do is if we'll incorporate Joe's comment and we'll show that as a revision. But what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you guys, is, this is a Word file and that's how we're tracking the changes. So we'll accept all the changes that are in the version that we sent you, and then we'll edit it and showing track changes. And the track changes will show Joe's changes too, the changes Joe requested. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, and we'll get it back to you. All right, good.
So the schedule for item 2, the schedule for FSAR markups, we discussed on February 3rd. When do you plan, is that going to be in your slide presentation, Gina, or can you give us an idea when those markups will be coming in?
I'd like to talk with you and Jim, Mike, about how to proceed on this, because as you know, we have an official COLA submission that has to be submitted by June 30th. And our thinking was that we would try to get that, if it works out for you guys, and obviously you're going to need to talk with Manus and Jimmy Zoo's people the seismic reviewers. Our thinking was that we would process a seismic change package now that officially incorporates all the changes that you've seen as markups through, from last year and this year, and that we can make now based on the action items that are confirmatory and where the work has been done. We'd incorporate all the changes basically that can be incorporated as of today, let's say, and then submit those in the official COLA submission. But that submission would not include some changes that are still being worked on to address comments that you guys have given us, and it would not include Audit 2 changes. That would have to come in a subsequent COLA submission. So, I need to talk with you and Jim about how you want to proceed with that. We could send you the markups of changes similar to what we've been doing all along through the SCP process. We could send those to you basically by the beginning of April. We'd have them available for you to look at during the audit in March. But the official markup, the letter with the markups would go in essentially the beginning of April.
Yeah, Gina, this is Jim Su. I just walked in, sorry for being late. I think what you said makes sense, and I did look at the tracking loads project provided. The quite a bit open items with Dominion, I assume they are associated with the SR markup. So I think that, my expectation is if we can turn those open items into confirmatory before the audit, that would ensure a successful outcome. What they were saying is doing the audit. Huh? What they were suggesting is doing the audit. I would like to see if they can provide a markup. That doesn't have to be the final ASTAR, but provide ASTAR markup before the audit, so you guys have a chance to look at it and get alignment on the editorial changes that you can discuss during the audit. But if there is potential issues, we need to have that identified, resolved, this is quite a bit of open items. And I feel very good about the open items with the NRC. There's only one. We have only one action there, so that's good.
Shannon, this is Ronaldo Jenkins. I'm just wondering exactly what's the time frame for turning around any changes the staff might want to make to the FSAR after the audit. How long do you need to have, from a time perspective, before the June 30th submittal to the NRC?
It would depend, Ronaldo, on what types of changes the staff would be requesting. If the staff is asking us to perform some more calculations, then that would be weeks, because depending on the change. But it could be, if they're just pretty straightforward and clarifications, which a number of the changes we're making have been to address NRC concerns, then it would be a couple of weeks. Well, let's say 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, so I guess the work has already been done in terms of the seismic closure plan, and so are you doing any calculations now to address staff comments?
We do have a couple that we're doing to address comments that have been made by the staff since January, and those are there are only a few that are being performed, and we're planning on going through those with you all on our March 3rd meeting, public meeting.
Okay, so in terms of having a markup, I guess I'm hearing a request by the technical staff to have as much of the FSAR markups prior to the audit, so that the staff can look at that, and then in concert with their time they're going to be looking at the calculations. If those markups make sense, then it would seem like having this preview of it would be helpful, rather than them coming out of the audit and still commenting on the markups.
Right. And that, I understand, that would make sense. Okay, so we've been working on our schedule, and what I'm going to do then is talk further with our staff here, and we will figure out how quickly we can expedite getting y'all the markups. And I understand, I think, Ronaldo, if it's okay with you and Jim and Mike, that we can submit not necessarily the official letter, but we can maybe in the reading room or somehow get you draft copies so you can see what we're doing. Is that correct?
That would be fine. I mean, we tried that approach before, right?
Yeah, Gene, this is Jim Chair. I think the key is that June 30th, we need to have the final FSAR. If we're going to meet all the other elements of the schedule, ATRS, et cetera, and moving on to phase 6.
I understand.
To issue a license. So, I mean, if there's any delays there, and of course we don't know what's going to happen at the audit, but the assumption is prior to going into the audit, you've got to have a good idea what this FSAR looks like, and including any issues that are raised at the audit, they have to end up in the final FSAR so that we can do our final look at that, and then our ATRS schedule can stay, as it is, as a schedule. But I think if there's any significant changes, then
Obviously, if there's any changes that requires you to do calculations and have to essentially go back and address some technical issues, I'm mainly thinking about clarifications in the text of the FSAR for the purposes of clarifying what you intend, what the staff is looking at going forward, so that there's a big disconnect in terms of their understanding coming out of the audit. So that sounds to me like a more of a clarification text change than actual calculations. So I'm hoping that you will have all the calculations done prior to the audit. You'll have all of the markups associated with those calculations prior to the audit, and that the staff will have sufficient time. And of course, we can talk about the vehicle for that. I mean, the reading room has worked before, but so that the staff who are conducting audit can focus on those items that they are specifically looking to look at, rather than having to deal with some additional issues in terms of the markups that you're going to provide.
I see. Yeah. Okay, and that makes sense. And our expectation, that we've had a lot of discussion with the staff, and the staff's been, those discussions have been very helpful in helping us understand what the NRC needs to see in audit too. And so our expectation is that there won't be any calculation changes required, revisions. But I'm just saying, if there are, then I'm not exactly sure what the schedule will be for that. So yes, I expect that we'll be able to have a final COLA to you by June 30th, and that we will, and I'm going to work on the schedule for making sure we can get you all the COLA markups prior to the audit. Okay, that's my action.
Okay, so and if you could communicate that to Jim and Mike about the timing of that, so that the staff will be able to know when they can go to the reading room to review these documents, that would be really helpful. And like I say, if we can get a week ahead of the schedule to look at these documents, that way if there's any questions that they might want to pursue during the audit, they'll have an opportunity to do that.
Sure, that makes sense.
Now, lastly, what Jim was alluding to in terms of the FSR update. Once again, my expectation would be that all of the existing confirmatory items that have been identified in the safety evaluations that have been issued, the Phase 4 safety evaluations that have been issued would be addressed with this next revision. And what we're looking for is to try to capture any confirmatory items as soon as they come out of the audit. Once again, if there's a need for additional calculations and we need to take additional time to do that, then we'll have to reassess that. But in terms of us and our schedule, it would be most helpful to have all of the confirmatory items identified and addressed in the next FSAR revision, which is planned in June. And that will allow the staff to proceed and allow us to address any of the other remaining items. And there wouldn't really be any, the main one being the seismic audit.
Right. Okay. I understand, Ronaldo. We'll work on that. Yeah, I expect that we ought to be able to meet your expectations.
Okay, next.
Okay, Gina, do you mind if we jump to agenda item 4, 5, and 7? And then we'll come back to 3 and you can go through your presentation?
Sure, that's fine, Mike.
Did you have any, this is optional, but did you have any feedback on the draft plan for audit 2? I know you raised a couple of concerns. We can do that in an offline call since it's a pre-audit information, or you can discuss it now if you'd like with Manus.
Well, we can do it either way. If you want to try to be most efficient on this, Mike, I'd be happy to do this in a separate call.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. But before I do that, I do just want to ask Doug Kemp from Bechtel, is there anything you want to bring up specifically? I know we want to talk some with the staff about the Shake 2000 scope, just to make sure that we have everything there for you, but that's just project management, making sure the documents are going to be there. Doug, do you have anything that you think we should ask on this call?
No, I mean, I got the feedback on what was being asked to look at related to Shake 2000. I've passed that on to the SMEs. I haven't gotten a response as to whether they have any questions. So I'll have some feedback to you, Gina, when you have this follow-up call with the NRC.
Okay, thank you. And Lubin, how about you? Is there anything you think we should bring up on this call?
The first scope of the audit are not related to. I don't think so, Gina. I think we're okay. Gary, you didn't have anything, right?
To ask about the audit plan, Gary?
Issues with the audit plan?
Yeah. You don't? Gary, I'm sorry, I think you cut out. Are you okay with the audit plan?
I'm sorry, yes, I'm okay with the audit plan.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mike, for asking. So we'll just follow up with you later if we have more questions about Shake 2000.
Okay, fair enough. The next item, Gina, did you have any, did we need to discuss any issues on for the March 3rd public meeting? I know that you had requested a closed session to discuss a proprietary report, which will be at the end of the meeting. I'm going to schedule about an hour and a half for that, and I plan to put out the public notice for that, before the end of this week. I just wanted to see if staff or if Dominion had any clarifications about that meeting or any issues.
So we're still working on our topics and the agenda for that. So I will let you know. We do expect that we're going to need a closed portion for the meeting, and I'll let you know about the timing of the closed portion. Okay, Mike?
Okay. So if you can give me a more specific agenda and then maybe a schedule for when you think we would have the slides available.
Yes.
For staff. Usually it is always helpful to try to get that to us so staff can take a look at it before we have the meeting. So if you come up with a schedule for that, that would be great. But I will go ahead and use the agenda that you've given me to date to go ahead and generate the public meeting notice, and we'll go from there.
All right, Mike, can I send you something that is a little gives you a little bit more detail, and you can use that. You can choose to.
Yes, great.
Thank you.
Okay. No one has any other issues at the moment, then we'll go ahead.
Before we move to the press slide, I just want to make some comments on 020916001. That's the ITAC question.
Do you know what?
30. Page 30 of action list.
Okay. Yes, Anna.
Now, whatever is there, that's fine, but I just wanted to make a comment that we need also another minor additions to that comment. And let me say what it is. It's the Firewater Storage Complex, FSAR Tier 1, Section 111 markup was revised for defining the elevation 220 feet input for the Firewater Storage Complex. However, the corresponding Note 4 of Table 5.1-1 was not changed. So you may need to take a look at that to see whether that note needs to be changed. I'll give this little input to Mike later, but I just wanted to tell you.
Okay, thanks for the heads up.
Okay. That's all I had on that.
So you'll give it to Mike, and then Mike, you'll send it to us, and you want to add it to this action item, Anna?
Yes, because I just spotted before I came here on that note, so I thought I would let you know.
Thank you.
Manus, could you give me that table number again? I didn't write quickly enough.
So on the section 1.1.1 on that FSAR Tier 1, we have made the changes, okay? To say that we have another SSI input at the Firewater Storage Complex, bottom 220 feet elevation, right? Which is in the current markup.
Right.
However, the corresponding note 4 of table 5.1-1, which is also in Tier 1, okay, does not reflect this change, okay? That note 4 should have that change too.
Okay, I got it. Thank you so much.
Okay, Gina, if there's no other issues, then why don't we go ahead and jump to agenda item?
Yeah, go on. Jim Shea, we had a couple of REIs that are due in, I think. One on the yeah, well, I think they sent the insert one, right, Mike?
Yeah.
They have the one on the hydrology.
That's it. That should be it.
Oh, did you send that?
You sent it.
I know we sent them a draft so they could get started. But have you sent the official letter?
It was supposed to go out Monday, Jim. Let me confirm that because our admin person has been out. So I'll confirm that for you, Jim.
All right, and then the other one was on the seismic on Chapter 2, 5.44 section, or 5.4 point.
CRAI 25426?
Second.
Yeah, that's it. You should have that.
Okay, when did that come? Yeah, just send me an email on those too, make sure that I have, that I can track them down and make sure the right people have them.
Yeah, okay, I'll forward you the emails that you should have gotten, but yeah, let me check on that for you.
426, that's the soil set, the soil, weed done soil, region soil question.
2.5, I think that's REI 2.5.4-26.
It is, yeah.